So, today, let's talk about reality shifting. I don't even know how I want to get into this topic. It feels like a topic that I have a lot of inner knowing around, but in this body, I'm new to it. So, let's talk about what it is first, really briefly. So, reality shifting is the practice of taking your conscious awareness point. So, if you've ever explored spirituality or meditation, there's often an idea that you aren't your body, like you aren't this character that you are existing as. Like, I'm not really a Reg. I am the awareness that is aware that I'm a Reg. I'm not the character. Who I really am is the awareness, the consciousness that is observing everything. So reality shifting is the idea that you can actually control where that awareness point is. So if right now, in this very moment, as I'm recording this video, my awareness point is in a Reg, like a Reg's realm, I am a Reg because my awareness point is here, and all my memories and all my experiences and the plot of my life, etc., it's all related to the character of a Reg. So reality shifting is a practice where you can take your conscious awareness, you can move it to another character. And what I find with this is when you share this information with people, or when someone comes upon this, they're either an immediate oh yeah, that makes total sense. I know I haven't really done it before, but within me, it feels like the truest thing ever. It just feels legit. I don't really have that much skepticism about it. And then for the most part, at least the people that I speak to in my daily reality, there's a lot more skepticism and a lot more what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. How is that possible? Really? So this video isn't really for people who are skeptical. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. This is for people who are drawn to this, and they don't really need someone to convince them because there is an inner knowing. And that's kind of how I was when I first learned about it. It was just oh yeah, that feels right. That feels like something I can do. This is a story that's coming up. When I was younger, she told me that there was this time where I really loved the show Arthur, that cartoon. And I told my mom that I wanted to go to Arthur. I wanted to go to their universe. And my mom was like, you can't, it's not possible. And apparently I cried a lot about it, and I was really whiny about it and really just upset that I couldn't do that. Obviously when I heard this story, it was just haha, that's so funny, that's so cute. And then now that I know about reality shifting, I'm oh, that's interesting, because I also feel like kids are more connected to spiritual truth because they haven't had that much time for experiential reality to kind of implant belief systems. And so it's interesting to think back on that little kid version of me. I'm this has to be related. That version of me has to have remembered the idea of reality shifting or the practice from other lifetimes, experiences, etc. And then I was trying to apply it here, but in the reality that I was in, it wasn't really a known thing yet. And so there was no infrastructure, or my parents didn't really know what to do with that. It's no, you can't do that, period. That's impossible. The way that I learned about it in this life is, I feel it's when I think about it, I think that I have been dabbling in it since 2020. Just this morning, I remembered this experience that I had where in 2020 I was actually here. I was still living in the city in Toronto, but Garrett and I were here for a weekend or something, and I was drinking cacao, and I was sitting on the dock over there. I was sitting on the dock and I was meditating. And at this time, like, the concept of parallel/past lives had just kind of come up into my field of awareness. Not in the context of reality shifting, but just in like the modern spirituality community, like people talking about like past life regressions or being able to like, but in the context of where it was like a lot more linear, like this is your past life, like this is where you've come from. I now understand them to be parallel lives, like everything's happening simultaneously. But anyway, back then I was meditating, and I think I was just learning about it. I wasn't necessarily trying to meditate to do anything specific. Maybe I was just thinking about past lives because I'd like watched a video or something about it in that morning. But I was sitting on the dock, and all of a sudden, like, all I remember is that, okay, you know when you imagine something, it's in your mind's eye, right? Like your visual, it doesn't look like this. You know, like when my eyes are open and I'm looking at the camera in front of me or the lake in front of me, etc. This is like, I'm using my like, it's a different level of seeing than imagining something. So like if I imagine that I have an apple in my hand, I can imagine that, but it's not, like I don't actually see it with my physical eyes, but I can see it in my mental eye, you know? So this meditation, a lot of meditations and a lot of the visualizations that I've done over my life, they've been mental, you know, like my mind's eye, I can visualize it. But this specific meditation really stood out because all of a sudden, like, I could see it. Like, it was just a few seconds, I think, maybe like 5 to 6 seconds of this experience, but I could see. It's so weird. Like, my eyes were closed in this CR, in this current reality, and I was meditating, and then all of a sudden I could see, like, not mind's eye see, but like see, even though my eyes were closed here. And I could see myself, like I could sense that I was in a body. I was in this like little hut thing. I don't even know, a hut or some sort of like really small circular space. I looked behind me, like if I looked behind me there was like this little single bed. And it looked like, and the climate was very tropical, like it was very humid and it was warm. And I knew immediately that it was like kind of like a South American type of environment, and it felt like a very small community that I was a part of. So behind me was like my little bed. I remember I had like a little mat, not a mat, like a rug maybe, behind me, like next to the bed. And then like all along here was like this whole wall with like powders and dried herbs. And I looked down at my hands. By the way, this is not mind's eye. This is like, I can see it. It was really weird. It was not that long again. It was like only like maybe 6 to 7 seconds of an experience, but it was like I could see it. So I looked down at my hands and they were old. Like they were wrinkly. They were like an old woman's hands. And I remember feeling my hair, and it was really long. It was braided, and it was really long and kind of like thinning at the bottoms, and it was gray. And then I came back to this reality, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what was, like, that was like the coolest thing I'd ever experienced. Because like I said, it wasn't an imaginal, I see this with my mind's eye. It was I feel like I'm there. Like, I didn't feel like I was fully grounded there. But it was definitely more of a real feeling experience than just imagining or visualizing in my head. So that happened. I was obviously like really hyped about it. I didn't know anything about reality shifting back then. But I carried, like, I've held that experience close to me. And I feel like that activated, like now, like the herbalism stuff that I do now, I feel like a lot of it was awakened in that little experience, because I was like, oh, that's so cool. I must have been a medicine woman in this past life. And I think that, like, connecting that to my identity, somewhere it helped me connect to plants and the earth, because it was only after that that I felt like more, not more interested, but like I feel like I was always really drawn and interested in the natural world and communing with earth, but that really made me feel more like qualified in a way where I could kind of go into the practice more confidently. Like I said in my lavender harvesting video, I don't know if that's up yet. In that video, I said like I just recently started formally learning herbalism, and that's true, but also herbalism is just like, from my perspective, building relationships with the plants around you, and I've been doing that since 2020. I mean, like, I was drinking cacao when that experience happened. Anyway, now I was just thought about it today, because now I've been learning about reality shifting, and I've been reading about it a lot on like Tumblr communities, Reddit communities, YouTube videos, and Discord servers. That's where I'm kind of immersing myself in information about reality shifting. And I don't know, I just put two and two together today, like, oh, so in reality shifting, there's also this idea of like mini shifting. That would be considered a mini shift, because I didn't fully go into that medicine woman reality, and I didn't fully ground and like actually go and live there. It was just like a glimpse, and so I would consider that a mini shift. But it's been so interesting, because I feel so like I've had experiences like I just shared right now. I haven't had an experience yet of like fully shifting to an alternate reality and like existing there for a little bit and then coming back here. But honestly, I don't really have specific realities like that I even desire to visit at this point in my life. Like, I'm really happy with building out what is here. But yeah, it's just so like cool. It's so, if you're one of those people that immediately like don't have an immediate like skepticism type of reaction to this information, and you're like me and you're kind of like, well, this feels so true, there's such a feeling of like relief and like I knew it, freaking knew it. And it feels so validating to be able to make friends with people who have done it, or to listen to, I've been listening to this podcast, I think it's like the Get Shifty podcast, and it's just like, they just talk about it so normally because they have like fully shifted into these alternate realities. Another note about the reality shifting community, I feel like everyone is really young. Like, I feel like everyone that I know there is under 24. Mostly like late teens, early 20s. And I think that's really interesting too, because, and that knowing that it's like a younger generation is kind of like spearheading the awareness of this practice in modern times, it kind of validates it a little more for me, because I believe that like consciousness has been evolving, and that I think with the younger generation, it's like as we make progress over time, the younger and younger generations, like the new humans that are born, they don't have to deal with as much of the bullshit as the older generations did. And so it just makes so much sense to me that it is these like younger, I mean, I'm not that much older than them, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's spearheaded by these, it's not the boomers, it's not the millennials, it's not upper Gen Z, it's like lower Gen Z and even like upper Gen Alpha, that is really like that like makes up most of the reality shifting virtual communities that I'm a part of. And it makes so much sense because it feels like their physical template is different. They were born into like a different time on the planet, a different like energetic web on the planet, and I feel like they just have a lot less they just naturally have a lot less limitation implanted. Like they don't, it's just like that inner knowing that it's intact, you know? So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that. I wanted to bring it to your awareness. Another side community or side thing that has been helpful on my journey as well is I'll also like link the communities that I'm currently just like absorbing in the description if you feel called. I also am like, if you're interested in like traveling this journey together, that like free community chat that I have talked about a few times now. So there's like a sub chat in there called reality shaping, because for me right now it's like I'm less interested in shifting realities completely into like whole different reality structures, and I'm more interested in just like shaping this current reality as a reach, like, which in other words, sorry, hold on. So there's a sub chat, and if you want to like go on this journey with me, then join that group, which is literally called You Are Kismet. You Are Kismet. Makes sense. There's a sub chat called Reality Shaping, and I kind of like regularly post and discuss things on there. But a side thing, before I learned about reality shifting, I learned about this thing called the law of assumption, and mostly through like this guy named Neville Goddard, his teachings of the law of assumption. I was kind of absorbing that for a while. And it's like, what I've learned is that it's the same thing. Ultimately, at the bottom of it all is that, like, law of assumption specifically is like, I would say it's like it describes like the mechanisms. Whereas reality shift, like if you go into reality shifting communities, you'll find more like people's experiences, methods, techniques, tips, stories, anecdotes, that type of thing. Like it's more like experience based and like how to do it. And then the law of assumption community it's like there's a lot more theory, like psychological theory, and it kind of helps you put the pieces together on why this could possibly be a thing that we can experience. And with the law of assumption is literally like whatever you assume to be true about reality is what you will experience in your reality. And so therefore, like, reality shifting is true for people like me who assume that it's true because it feels true to me from within myself. But for people who don't assume that it's true, they're not going to experience it to be true. This is also like, I feel like the culmination of all these since 2020. I feel like we've been collectively on this journey out of the idea of like objective truth, and this is true and this is false and this is real and this is not, and moving out of that like collective objectivity into a more subjectivity of, it's like seeing everything as like a collective reality that everyone had to share and exist in. And now I feel like over the years, since 2020 specifically, we've been moving more into, at least our consciousness is becoming more aware and like shifting into this understanding that it's not one objective shared reality, it's each individual creates their individualized reality based on the assumptions that they make about it, and that informs their experiences, and basically anything is possible. so basically it's like, if just because one person said that, this is okay, the example that's coming up right now is with one of my friends. She's like traveled a lot her whole life, like literally since she was a child. So in her reality, in her individualized reality, the idea that traveling is easy and she's always traveling, it's like so ingrained into her because that was like a fact for her since she was a child. So when COVID happened and everything shut down, she was still traveling as normal, like planes and everything. Like it didn't really affect her at all, even though for most of the world, everyone was saying like everyone was on a travel ban. For her, it was like she was still fluidly like not even having to try extra hard. It was like she was still just fluidly being led into like travel experiences where there was no conflict or there was no like scary, like, you know, it's just an example of there is this collective reality that a bunch of people feel like is the objective truth, and then there's like my friend who's had this like alternate experience of travel throughout her life, and so that informed her experience. Even when everyone else felt limited, she didn't feel limited because she didn't have that belief within her. So I think reality shifting just kind of ties into this whole collective shift of individualized realities. But yeah, is there anything else that I want to say about it today? Yeah, okay. The thing I'll say about the last thing is like, you get to decide whether this is true for you or not. Again, I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm not here to prove that this is real. It's very experiential based. It's like, if you know, you know, or it's like you've had an experience, so you know. Sorry about the wind. If it makes sense to you, move forward in it. I feel like it's a very fruitful journey to embark on if you care about it, or are excited about it, or interested in about it, like in the idea of almost like multi-dimensional travel. But if you're not, or if it seems really like too woo for you, or too crazy, or like just it can't be possible, then don't worry about it. It's fine. That's your path. But this video is for people who are meant to really explore it in this specific lifetime. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Join my chat if you want to go on this together, if you want to walk alongside one another and share experiences and help one another and talk about it more regularly. But otherwise, I hope this video, I don't know, did something for it. There's moved something within you, whether it was a severe like positive reaction to it or even like an aversion. It's just interesting. I'm happy to facilitate whatever happened for you internally. But thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. My name is Arij once again. Follow me on Instagram. That's kind of where that's always my most active platform, no matter what's going on in my life. And it's where like you can find all the things that I'm doing, and that's where I kind of like disperse my information or my offerings from. It's like the central hub. So follow me on there, because that'll lead you to like all the other places that I am that may be relevant to you. But okay, I love you. Goodbye. Thank you for listening.